If that's true, that's a big problem, that these members weren't even told about the breach. And if they're not being accurate in their statements, that's obviously a problem as well.
Well, I want to, I know that it's been reported and some have claimed that, gee, this is nothing but just a simple bank fraud case, if it's that. But under 18 U.S.C. section 101001, says whoever in any matter within the jurisdiction of the government, which of course includes House employees, knowingly and willfully falsifies, conceals, or covers up by any trick, scheme, or device a material fact, makes any materially false, fictitious, or fraudulent statement or representation, or 3, makes or uses any false writing or document knowing the same contain any materially false, fictitious, or fraudulent statement or entry, shall be fined under this title, imprisoned not more than 5 years, or if the offense involves international or domestic terrorism, imprisoned not more than 8 years, or both. With respect to the situation with the Awan family and associates, it appears that there have been falsified vouchers that Awan and his family and associates have filed many times. Isn't that right?
That's correct.
So when Imran Awan and his associates acted as ghost employees who did, where they, as you were saying earlier, when they achieved the maximum amount that a House employee can make, then you seem to indicate that's when another family member, another associate would pop up and would find themselves on the payroll, correct?
Correct.
And do we know for sure if some of those family and associates did not ever perform IT work for these offices?
Well, there are indications. For example, the youngest brother was a full-time college student. He was only 20 years old. Imran Awan spends months out of every year in Pakistan. Abid was...
He spent at least 1 month a year in Pakistan.
He spent more like, I've seen records indicating that he spent like 3 to even more months per year in Pakistan.
Some years he would spend more than 3 months in Pakistan.
He also, I have seen emails where he indicated that he was doing his job remotely from Pakistan.
So he had access and doing the job of providing security for House members from Pakistan? Seriously?
That's what he said.
I had not seen that anywhere. I was not aware of that. But Imran Awan himself said he was helping with, well, he was doing the job for which he was being paid. What amount was he being paid annually?
Over $160,000.
Over $160,000 annually, and some years more than 3 months doing it from Pakistan. That is just staggering. Well, and there is another part of 18 U.S.C. section 1001, and that's C, with respect to any matter within the jurisdiction of legislative branch, subsection A, which was the part I read a moment ago, shall apply only to administrative matters, including a claim for payment or a matter related to procurement of property or services, personnel, employment practices, or support services, or a document required by law, rule, or regulation to be submitted to the Congress or any office or officer within the legislative branch, or any investigation or review conducted pursuant to the authority of any committee, subcommittee, commission, or office of the Congress. I mean, though some people want to say this is just a bank fraud, simple one-time bank fraud case, there's all kinds. It seems like there may be hundreds and hundreds of criminal violations under that provision alone. Would you agree?
That's correct. And the bank fraud was not even learned about, or it may not have even occurred until after these guys became aware that they were subjects of the cybersecurity and procurement. That has always been what this is about. So at the end of 2016 into the beginning of 2017, they realized that, someone's on to them, and they start moving all this money over to Pakistan, and they fly over there. You could say that they were charged with what appears to be the flight or the cover-up rather than the underlying crime. Now, I think a really important point here is that the chief administrative officer of the House is in possession of all these invoices, which are indisputably falsified. It doesn't need an investigation. It's been over 18 months, but the fact is these invoices say that equipment cost $499 when it did not. And yet no one has been held accountable for those procurement issues.
Well, so where did all this equipment go? Do you know?
So I have multiple of their relatives telling me that they were sending iPhones and other similar equipment to Pakistan. I heard about that months ago before I heard about the issues with the disappearing equipment, and I didn't report it because I didn't really feel like I had enough corroborating it. But over time, I heard multiple people tell me that. These relatives have always been right with what they've told me. And then when I heard about the missing equipment, it all kind of added up. So there are indications that he was selling it in Pakistan, according to his own relatives. Now, I also was told an interesting...
So his own relatives were saying Imran Awan was sending equipment purchased with house money to Pakistan and selling it over in Pakistan.
They didn't tell me that it was house equipment. They just told me that he was sending a large number of iPhones over to Pakistan.
iPhones, any iPads, things like that?
I believe it was a variety of equipment. And then the other thing is that the House was aware of this so for 18 months now they've had that, and there's also the issue of ethics disclosures. I mean, if you make a lot of money in the House, and also if you're a shared employee, you have to file these ethics disclosures. And there are numerous false statements on these ethics disclosures. It's a felony every time you do it, and they haven't been charged with it. So you've got...
Yeah, we have to list all outside income.
Yeah. And they were really obvious lies. Like, it asked you, did your spouse have income? And so they say, my spouse had no income. Well, in some cases, the spouse was employed by the House of Representatives itself. So they're submitting it to whatever body in the House reviews these things. They don't catch it. And then later on, there's all this scrutiny on these guys. It's known misstatements on these, and nothing happens. So the House has these procurement rules, and they have these ethics rules. But then 18 months later, after it's clear that violations took place, no one is held accountable. So it's a really interesting case of, if you're going to have rules and you're not going to enforce them, I mean, why have them at all?
Congressman, if I could just interject, this is disturbing information in the sense that we all know that Warren Brothers aren't brilliant. They're criminal. The criminals are criminals. They don't come up with unique ideas. And you can bet in a government agency or congressional system where you have 20,000 employees, they're not the only ones who have figured out how to game the system. And the question I have is, what are the administrative leaders of the House doing to make sure this isn't going on again? Are they performing an audit of the payroll or the procurement system? I mean, procurement fraud is an ongoing problem government-wide, and the